Years into the establishment of the Gautrain, we look into how the Gautrain has transformed the transportation system in the province, how it has changed people's way of traveling, and what its future plans are. Peter Ndoro talks to Gautrain COO Tshepo Kgobe on today's For the Record.
Tshepo Kgobe, thank you so much indeed for joining us. It's been quite a journey, literally, for Gautrain. This is the 13th year now. How would you say over time it's affected the mobility of people in the province?
Peter, you know, one of the things that we've learned in the short while, and sometimes we talk about transforming spaces, people and the economy through mobility, and somebody says, what does that mean? Now, in the short period of time of the pandemic, cities that have recovered better are the ones that have had proper transport. And when you look at the proper transport, it means, how do I get somewhere quickly? How do I, as economies are rebuilding themselves, that has become a big part. But let's start in the beginning. In the beginning, when we were building the Gautrain, probably around 2005, designing the whole thing, and the naysayers were saying this would never work. We said it will work, and it will work in such a way that it will change the manner in which you commute, you travel everywhere else. Now, today, we can now talk about a 22 minutes global city region, which literally means you are 22 minutes away from everywhere in the city from the center. If you looked at it from Midrand, where our offices are, you now have 22 minutes, you could be in Hatfield and be closer to Parliament. You now have 22 minutes and you could be close to, you know, the city of Johannesburg and its center. You are now 22 minutes from there to the airport, literally. And that changes everything, because if you are able to, can predict your life through knowing how you're going to move through the day, that becomes magical.
Has there been a take-up over time? You know, I think initially people were curious, some people went on it, and then COVID happened, of course, and then post-COVID, where are we in terms of occupancy and usage?
So last week, for the first time since COVID, when we had zero ridership in that first month, we hit 33,000 riders a day. That comes up to about 66% of our pre-COVID times. Now, let's put it in context. Globally, all rail companies have recovered late. They are always lagging 30 to 40% behind any form of transit. And we are seeing that, and we've experienced that, but the green shoots are there. We are seeing and it's been a quite an incredible ramp up. Over a 3-week period, we've gone from where we were sort of floundering around the 25 mark to where now we've gone up to 33,000 unique riders a day. And we are expecting it to go to 35 and probably to 38 in the coming week. So the economy of Gauteng and the economy of Johannesburg is open again.
So there was an issue about pricing, and where are we with that? Do you think what we're paying now is affordable, especially when you compare it to other parts of the world?
It is affordable when you think about it. So let's look at the airport service, because the airport service is always the one thing that everybody brings it up. And it's about $10. In its true terms, when you look over it in its true terms. Now, that in itself compared to other, in actual fact, when we compared ourselves to other APSs, airport passenger services, we were actually 10th or 11th in terms of pricing. Which is like further back in the numbers. Now, in terms of pricing, we always say you gotta look at the entire transport mix. The challenge at the current moment is that the transport mix, and we're talking about the transport mix, we're talking about how trains, buses, general metro, and if there are light rail systems, they combine together to form a mix that allows different types of riders to get around the city. Now, we had earmarked the Gautrain to be for a particular level of rider and to be able to enable that person who's a business person who values their time to be able to go somewhere. And when talking about somebody who values their time to get somewhere, therefore, is that person, their worry is not whether or not I pay so much. It's about them being able to. Now, the question has to be asked, do we remain with the same pricing strategy? And in essence, what we've done a study, and which shows clearly that we need to be able to look at that strategy and look at it differently. And what it has brought up is that there are areas of the province where we need to have differentiated pricing. And that differentiated pricing, we have looked at it from different forms. You know, we have a boarding fare. Do we cut the boarding fare in half and then cut the price per kilometer in half also? And the one that is coming up is keeping the boarding fare as it is and then allowing a lower price per kilometer. But that would be areas that are very particular. It's areas that have been demarcated by states to say as being, you know, below a particular, LSM. Right. And we are keen on getting on with that pricing strategy to be able to bring on more people onto the system as such. One of the other brilliant ideas that have come up recently was that, well, the whole of this province has got government buildings littered all over the place. Why couldn't we look at a particular product that then will service moving, officials from one place to the other? And if we remove those cars off the freeway, then the freeway is free to be able to move in a different manner. So that in itself, we've looked at it. We've just recently, in the last year, launched our student product. You might have seen the product talking about riding with the G. You know, what do they call it? A play on words with the youth. And the riding with the G product is well loved by its students. When you see the social media comments, somebody wrote that this is a lifesaver. We hope Gautrain doesn't take this product away. We are looking at a senior citizens product soon, which we'll be putting out into the market, and then we're packaging a particular product to be able to go to companies.
Yeah, I mean, I do the airport ride a lot, so I can tell you that it's a lifesaver for me, definitely. What about expansion? You know, where are we going? What are your plans? And when I talk about expansion, it's not just the rail tracks, but also the bus service that you get onto.
That's an important question, because when you look at it, Peter, is that any business, when it grows, it can grow vertically or it can grow horizontally. Now, let's talk about the growing the business vertically first. Vertically it's you becoming 10 times better than what you have today. And that talks to us being able to infill the area in and around station. Could we create businesses around stations? And that's when we start talking about, could we create, could we create transformational spaces that ultimately will be inspirational to their environment? And that in itself means we will become better at what we do within the realm of the existing stations. Then there's a business can grow horizontally. And when a business grows horizontally, in its sense, it's about the reach of the business. Can you reach more people in locations that you don't? So the one way of reaching more people is the physical bit of being able to build more tracks. But in the meantime, while the studies are being finalized and the approvals are being given, we have a very strong strategy of making sure that our distribution and feeder services actually reach more areas than we do now. But we're doing it in a clever manner. We recognize that the large 12-meter bus, there are roads it cannot go into. And it would struggle in a lot of the older parts of the cities all around. Now, what we're doing is we're using 22-seater minibuses, but we're not only just reaching more people, but we're actually transforming transport as a whole, because we do those services with the minibus taxi industry. Everybody looks at us and go, you guys have lost your mind. The minibus taxi industry, yes. We've been working with them for the last 13 years. And they provide services in full in Marlborough Station. They now are in Centurion, in Hatfield. We're about to roll out the Rosebank one, and Rhodesfield, and ultimately Park. And Park is a big part of us unlocking the South and getting people from the south of Johannesburg to be able to use the Gautrain more.